Hey Master Gardeners, here I am again on the roadsides in a site that you would never typically even be looking for orchids. And here we have a native orchid. This is a Spiranthes lacera, and it is ladies' tresses. And it's named tresses for women's locks of their hair, the way the spiral white blossoms go down the raceme, the inflorescence. So orchids, I'm sure you've heard before how notorious they are as indicators of a healthy environment, and yet this one chooses to live in disturbed soils. This one obviously enjoys some evergreens that are growing up over top of it. Even over in the meadow that's been mowed, they come up in that field. And my coworker, Josh, is an orchid enthusiast, and so he loves searching for orchids, and he located this one just by knowing the type of habitat that the lady tress prefers. And this one happens to be, there's lots of different kinds of Spiranthes species in Maryland. But this one happens to be, as you can see, about 15 inches tall, maybe 12, 15. And the other ladies' tresses, there's a northern and a southern. This is the variety gracilis, this one. And this one, if you were to look really closely, you know, the beauty of the bilateral symmetry of orchids is they're so varied. And this one actually has a green lip on it, which makes it quite glorious. So hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit of that blossom inside of it. A terrestrial orchid, and all of our Maryland orchids are terrestrial, but a petite little guy that you'd miss completely if you were walking your dog in this dry meadow. But fun to look at. And orchids are super indicators of the health of an environment because they live on this razor edge, as Josh likes to refer to it. They have a very complex growing life cycle, and they're dependent on the mycorrhiza that live in the soil. And that fungus helps them to absorb nutrients. And when that mycorrhiza is not present, then you'll lose the orchids. So if you have particularly disturbed areas, or there might be habitat loss, or the soil health in an area might change, and whammo, then you've lost the process, the flower production of your orchids. So super big indicators, and people watch them. Josh has he's searching to reach 30 native orchids in the state of Maryland. Isn't that an amazing statistic to think we had 30 of them? And I never even find one unless I have his help with me. So a beautiful orchid. This one doesn't have any foliage at the base of it. That's already withered and gone and passed on. And so the only thing that's growing now is this single stalk. There are a couple little hairy bracts along the nodes on the way up the stem. But so hard to see among the Queen Anne's lace and the other plants in here. It does provide nectar. Josh says that he's observed bees on them before, and certainly some of the butterflies. So there is a little nectar that's provided for this. But this lady's tress orchid is native to the eastern part of the United States. This is a one that's secure, so it's not rare or endangered. And a lot of people are orchid enthusiasts, and they'll even travel to other states to look at some that were native in our state, but are now only native now in other places. We call those extirpated orchids, and Josh goes and searches for those everywhere. But this is a common one, and I want you to be watchful for it while you're out hiking, or if you're walking along roadsides. This is a disturbed area, or at least something that's been mowed. This one likes open woodlands. Oftentimes orchids, they might be particular in the type of light they prefer, the type of soil they prefer, being near evergreens. Some of them like different pHs, and that complex requirements that they have for growth is why they're such valid indicators of the health of an environment. So I want you to get outside and look at these. They're in bloom now for about 1 month, and watch for lady tresses orchids. Okay, MGs?